Okay, before starting the sermon, as usual, let us take a moment to chant the Namaskara to pay homage to the perfect one, our Lord Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Permission from the Noble Triple Gem. Right. How is everyone doing? Is everyone doing well and happy? Today I was thinking before starting the sermon, I thought I don't think there'll be many people here today to the sermon, because today is the 24th over there, or Christmas Eve. A lot of people. So here it's the 25th, so Christmas basically, and on a Christmas Eve people have Christmas parties and better things to be doing. So I'm very surprised to see 18 of you here. So probably 18 including me, but 17 of you here. So I'm very surprised to see such big numbers here today. So yeah, it shows how really committed you are to attaining Nibbana and to how committed you are to understanding the truth about everything. So yeah, really give yourselves a pat on the back for making it here today. Where, I mean, if you ask someone, think about it. Think about how far you've come, how far you've come from where you used to be. Because maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, um, however long you started listening to the Dhamma, um, before you start listening to the Dhamma, on a day like today, on the 24th, just before Christmas, if someone were to tell you, if a friend of yours were to tell you, a friend who's listening to the Dhamma, if they were to tell you, hey, look, there's a Dhamma talk today, there's an online sermon today at 7 p.m. Would you like to come with me to go there, or would you like to join with me online to something like this, to a talk? Before you started listening to this stuff, you wouldn't do it for £1,000,000. Before you start listening to the Dhamma, I mean, I would be the same. I would react the same way. I would be like, why would I want to spend my day off, or spend today, Christmas Eve, out of all days, listening to a sermon? But no, now you're all changed, and you all want. Coming here on a day like today, when you have so many other better things to do, that shows that itself is a victory, because now this is an indication whether you've achieved. Like, for me, coming to a sermon on a day like today shows that you've achieved something. I'm not saying I achieving something or achieved something. I don't mean any states of any higher mental states or any margapala. That's not what I mean. I mean, like, you probably understand something about the Dhamma. You probably understand at least a bit of the Dhamma. If you don't, there's no way you would make it on a day like today, because you're probably getting so many invites saying, oh, it's Christmas Eve, let's do this, let's go to the pub, let's go there, let's go there. He's throwing a party, she's throwing a party, let's go there. You might have like work parties today, but you parked all of that to a side. Or maybe you're going there after this sermon, I don't know. But still, even if you're going, it's okay. I'm not saying don't go. Yeah, like when you're living a lay life, when you're living in the world, you have to do worldly things. They say when you are in Rome, do as Romans do. So these are things you can't avoid. So I'm not saying don't go to parties or don't throw parties. Do whatever you have to do. But what I'm saying is deciding to come to a sermon instead of going to such occasion. That shows how far you've come. The whole world might think you're nuts, but deep down, deep down, that why you made this decision. Deep down, that this is what we should be doing. We've been trying everything else, but nothing else really matters. So, but this is the only thing that matters. Therefore, or in other words, we were deceived for so long. We were living under an illusion. And it's like we were living in a dream, and now I've realized that it's time to come out of it. So it's really glad to see all of you here. So many of you here. Like I was saying, I didn't expect it, and it shows how far you've come. So really, you guys deserve a lot of credit for taking the time out to be here, and let's make the most of it. This time, it's the great thing about this sermon is that sometimes when we do a sermon to people who are new to the Dhamma, uh, it's not really beneficial to us because yes, we get some merits out of it, but when it comes to like deepening our understanding about the Dhamma, such sermons don't really do us any favors. But sermons like this is really valuable because we can talk deep Dhamma. I can give certain pieces of advice that I would give to a fellow monk or a nun or an anagarika or an anagarika. Like I can give such advice to a group of people like you because it's not about whether you are lay or whether you're a monk or nun. It's about your attitude. Because as a monk, especially when we travel the world, we go and meet lots of other monks, and sometimes our hands are forced. We have to meet them, and we see a lot of them are unfortunately not that serious about Nibbana, or they don't even know what Nibbana is, and then they don't even know that they have to attain Nibbana. So, I mean, it's not about whether you're a monk or not. It's about your attitude. So if we get, because I'm getting a chance to speak to a group of people who are serious about Nibbana, or people who at least know that they have to attain Nibbana, and they're willing to put their time and effort into it, and who's been listening to the Dhamma for a long time. It's a good platform for myself as well. It's a good platform for myself because I can talk the deep Dhamma, and it gives me a chance to contemplate, and it's not a waste of my time. That's what I mean. So that's why I love putting this time in, because it's it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning here, but still it's okay, because it's a win-win for both of us. It's a win-win for both parties. So and like Mahinda told you 2 weeks ago, let's use this time to kind of freshen our understanding of Dhamma. And if, however, for your merits, if any new points were to come out of me and stuff, or if you were to talk about a deep concept, then so be it. But let's use this time to kind of refresh our understanding and to do some contemplation during this time, and to if there are any questions you have regarding the basic concept, let's use this time to clear those doubts, those questions, because I don't want you to be a group of people who pursue lots of knowledge, because honestly, folks, knowledge is the greatest barrier to wisdom. Knowledge, yes, we need knowledge, but nowadays what's happened is that we are thirsty for knowledge, because we think the knowledgeable we are, the better we are. The knowledgeable we are, the more respect we get. I mean, to be fair, this is how the society is nowadays. But the problem is, when it comes to attaining Nibbana, that's why sometimes we are probably amazed that even when I first started listening to them, I was amazed that how do people who lived back in the day, our ancestors, I mean, how did they attain Nibbana so quickly and so easily? Because they had little or less knowledge about the world. But for them, attaining Nibbana was so easy, whereas us, with all the knowledge that we have, for us, it's very difficult. So there is the answer itself. The answer is knowledge. We have too much. We need knowledge, but we need the right knowledge. The problem is we have lots of knowledge, but it's lots of rubbish, like unnecessary stuff. That's what's cluttering our mind. So lots of this unnecessary knowledge is what's cluttering our mind. And because of that, it's very difficult for us to understand the truth. Very difficult. That's why when we talk to certain people, they know a million things. They know so many things, and that itself is the problem. Like, I have a friend. He's someone who is well read about all the religions in the world. He knows about all these different logics and stuff like that, and all these philosophies. And when I tried to preach the Dhamma to him, try to explain a simple concept to him, it was very difficult, because all of that prior knowledge was getting in his way. So we have to understand that we are living in an age where information, or having lots of information, is seen like a great thing. People with lots of knowledge are put on a pedestal in society, but we don't understand that a lot of that knowledge that you think about it, out of everything that you know, how many of it is actually useful to you? Really think about it. If you have some time, sit down and think about, just maybe think of some of the things that you know. I don't know, like, okay, I know about how a car works. I know how a computer works, and how this works and that works. And I know, like, for example, like questions, like general knowledge questions, and then like quizzes. Quizzes have become, like, if you are someone who's good at quizzes, like pub quizzes or like general knowledge quizzes, you are considered a really cool person. Because but the thing is, like, knowing how long the Great Wall of China is, how does that really help you with your life? Think about it, like, okay, the Great Wall of China is, I don't know, 2 billion kilometers long. Okay, how does that help you with your with life? Like, think about it. Unless your job is if you're a professional quizzer, then okay, fair enough. But if you're a nurse, how does that knowledge help you? If an accountant, how does knowing that help you in any way, shape, or form? So that knowledge is useless knowledge, and that knowledge only takes up memory. Whereas maybe that's the reason why you don't know what anicca is. You can't remember what anicca is, because the thing is, you need to remember what anicca is to practice, because when you're practicing, you need to have that piece of knowledge. And once you keep practicing it for a little while, that knowledge will become an understanding, a realization. Then you don't need to remember it, because it's proven to yourselves, and that has become a realization. But until then, until it becomes a realization, you need to have that knowledge. So now, because you wanted to know how long the Great Wall of China is, now that memory, so that piece of information or data occupies your mind. Let's say, let's imagine for a second that your mind is like a hard drive on a computer. I mean, it is more or less, but let's say usually hard drives have a certain capacity. So let's say 1 TB. That's the capacity of the hard drive, and the capacity of your mind is 1 TB. Now, because you know how long the Great Wall of China is, because of that data, now you can't add a new piece of data, which is what anicca is. Now, because of that, because you placed such a big value on knowing these little bits of trivia, little bits of, little nuggets of information about how long the Great Wall of China is, how tall Mount Everest is, the population of, I don't know, Madagascar. Because of stuff like this, now there's not enough space in the mind to add the bits of data that you really need. Like, what is anicca, what is dukkha, what is anatta? You can't put these three pieces of information into the mind, because it's occupied with those bits of information, with the length of the Great Wall, how tall Everest is, and I can't remember the population of Madagascar. Because of those three pieces of information, three frankly useless pieces of information. Because of that, there's no space to put what anicca dukkha anatta is. So these are the things that we need to be mindful of, and kind of like, we talk about spring cleaning. So you have to do a bit of spring cleaning. I know it's winter, but you have to do some spring cleaning, because like, take all those, useless bits of knowledge out, or don't perceive these type of stuff. Because think about it, we don't have that long to live. Our lives are very short. Let's assume we're going to live to, I think the average life expectancy in the UK is about 70 or 80 odd years. So let's say I'll give you 85. So let's say you're going to live till 85. So you've spent maybe 30 years, 40 years, 50 years of, maybe 60 years of 85 already. So let's say if you're 40, now you only have 45 years left. I know when I say 44, only 45 years left, you might think, but Swami knows that's more than half of my life left. So that's a long time. No, but think about it. How many hours do you sleep a day? Let's say you sleep for 8 hours a day. So that's a third of your time gone for sleeping. So out of 45, third of that time is 15 years. So you might, yes, you have 45 more years left to live, but out of them, you're going to spend 15 of it sleeping. So really, you only awake, let's say, or you only have 30 years left to live out of that. And out of those 30 years, you spend at least 8 hours of it working, and maybe an hour or two traveling. So that takes up more than half of what's left. So really, when you break it down and then find out how long you actually have, like, you will realize that you only have maybe another 4 or 5 years left. You don't have 45 years. So that's what I mean. That is after me giving a guarantee, or that's under the assumption that we're going to live till 85, and assuming you're 40 right now. So some of you are older, some of you are younger. So if you're on the older side, think about how long you really have. Even if you're okay, you could be 15 listening to this. You might think, oh, I have another 50 years left. But again, like we were doing, think about it. How much of that time are you going to spend sleeping? How much of that time are you going to spend at school? And how much of that time are you going to spend doing extra curricular activities? So when you like put aside all that time, think about how much time you actually have, how much free time you have, how much time you have to pursue the Dhamma, understand the Dhamma, the reality of the world. So this is what I mean, guys. You don't have much longer. So in this short window of time that we have, let's try to put fill our heads with the right bits of information. Because knowledge is the greatest barrier to wisdom. We've said this many times before. Honestly, it's true. So in my friend's case, his problem is the barrier between him and Nibbana is his knowledge. I told him, you know way too much for your own good. You know, all this information doesn't help you. But he doesn't get it yet. So that's why be very careful. So I'd say don't chase, like, some people they want to know about what's in Abhidharma, like what's in Vinaya. Like, you don't need to know that stuff. That is frankly, it's unnecessary, especially for a lay person. You don't need to know about Vinaya. Like, you can't stick to Vinaya as a lay person. So don't waste your time learning about it. I'm not trying to discourage it, but I'm just trying to prove a point here. I'm trying to show you something. Like, no point knowing about, okay, what are the 4 defeats, Parajika? What are what Sangha this is? So what are stuff like that. Like, there's no point in you knowing these things, because, like, how is that going to help you? You can't stick to any of it, right? So it's like learning about all the different laws in, I don't know, in Nepal. I mean, what's the point? You live in the UK. Um, you got no connection with Nepal unless you have family or something there, and you have to constantly visit there. Then it's fair enough. But I'm saying, like, think about it like why would you want to learn about the laws of a random country in the world which you have no dealings with? It's really useless. So, don't chase, don't go after such information. It's no point. So, so that's something that we should all think about, and kind of, like, remove that attitude of wanting to pursue all these extra information, new information. Like why? If it's relevant to your job, fair enough. Like, if you are, like, for example, when I used to work in IT, um, we had to know about the latest sort of technological advancements, like what are the latest features of Microsoft Teams and Zoom, or like stuff like that, like mobile phones. That's fair enough. So if that's part of your job, or if you're a lawyer, you need to know about the new changes to laws and legislations. That's okay. But, like, if it's if it's irrelevant to you, if it has nothing to do with um your occupation, and if it's no relevance to you, then don't chase it. There's no point, because the the more you know, the more confused you become. Think about it. If you Like if you heard about anicca from 10 different sources, you probably have 10 different ideas. And let's say 9 of those sources have told you the wrong thing. Then now when you hear the right one, now all those 9 are on your way, or are in your way, and then it's a huge obstacle to overcome. A lot of people in their short time, it's not enough time for them. They're so set, and they they're so fixed on their existing knowledge that, because they were believing this for 50 years, and then now 51 years later someone comes and says that's not right, this is the right one. They're gonna they won't accept it. And it's a shame, because you won't get another chance like this. I guarantee that you won't get another chance like this. This is the last chance we're gonna get for a long time. So if we don't get the job done in this life, we can use lots of excuses, but ultimately it's your life. It's nobody else's. At the end of the day, you can use all the excuses in the world, but it's not going to help you. Because I was thinking the other day, like, when people sometimes, there are people, I mean, I haven't come across too many of these people, luckily, but there are people who they come to meet us, and they're there to test their knowledge, to test our knowledge. They want to see if we know certain things, and so people like that, they come up to us and they ask all these random questions, and they're trying to make us feel uncomfortable, and to prove to us that, I suppose, they're more knowledgeable or whatever. So let's say you have a question, and let's say it's a genuine problem that you have, and you ask this from a monk or a nun, and if they can't answer that question, who is it? Like, the really serious question you have, you ask a monk, and if they can't provide you with an answer, people think that, oh, I won, or these monks are proved that, okay, these monks have gaps in their knowledge. I've proved that, and so I feel really happy about it. They might think they won in that situation because they've achieved the objective, but really and truly, they didn't get an answer to the question they have, to the question they had. So who did really? And it wasn't a problem. It's not a problem to the monk. Let's say someone gets angry all the time. So let's say that monk, he or she doesn't, they don't have that problem, let's say. So if they can't provide that person with the proper answer, who's really lost here? Is it the monk, or is it the person who's asking the question? It's the person who's asking the question. So the monk isn't able to give them an answer. So the monk hasn't lost. The person who lost was the person who had the problem. Because of lack of his merits or her merits, the monk couldn't come up with an actual answer. So, these are the things that we need to bear in our minds. So, like, if a monk can't answer the question you have, then the fault lies over there. It's because, let's say I went to my teacher with a problem, and if they can't answer that problem, that question, then I'm the one who lost. It's due to lack of my merits. That's why I didn't get the answer. That's why they couldn't give the right answer to me. So that's why, like, don't try to, test the knowledge of monks and nuns and all these. Like, don't try to test people's knowledge, because unless your job is to test people's knowledge, like if you're an examiner, if your job is to make question papers and exam papers, then that's okay, right? What I'm saying is like, we have this idea that, we want to, it's again, it's because of ego, not, yeah, it's because of a lot of people have, due to ignorance and attachment, a lot of people have this sense of self. And with that comes ego. With that comes, for a lot of people have something called an inferiority complex. They feel inferior. They feel like they're not good enough. And because of this, they wanna make themselves look better than other people. So they find a myriad of ways to achieve that. But doing that, it's only detrimental to those people, because that's gonna inflate their ego. So what we need to do is to remove our sense of self, not to refuel it or not to inflate it, isn't it? Because the problem is, folks, always, like I always say, before you do something, I suppose the reason why it's difficult for a lot of us to contemplate all the time and to stay aware. The reason, because we don't understand the problem. Because we need to know why we are doing it. We need to really be convinced that we have a problem. Because otherwise, this endeavor is a bit, you can't make the most out of this. So let's understand there's a problem. Or we need to understand what suffering is. We need to understand what Lord Buddha meant by dukkha. Like in Sinhalese, we say dukkha, but okay, we need to understand what dukkha really means. We need to understand what Lord Buddha really meant by suffering. So what the Buddha meant by suffering is not when we lose people, when we lose things, when things I like, that's, if something happened to something that I like. So this is not the suffering that the Buddha is talking about. I mean, any Tom, Dick, and Harry knows that if someone were to steal my car, if my mother were to pass away, that makes me sad. I mean, anyone knows that. You don't need a Buddha to tell you that. You can ask a stray dog. It would tell you that, okay, I lost my puppy the other day because it got, I don't know, it got some kind of disease, therefore it died. So now I feel sad. So, I mean, you don't need a Buddha to tell you that. So what the Buddha meant is something really deep, a lot more profound. So what the Buddha meant by dukkha is we feel like there's a world, and in this world there are things, there are objects, there are people, and they exist. They're really there. What I mean by the world is the world of color, this world of sound, tastes, touch, sensations. This world, I don't mean the crisp sensations, yeah. So tactile sensations. So this world, with all those aforementioned things, we feel like this world is really there. This world is real. The sense of existence, this is the problem. Why? Because of this sense of existence, sense of self, or yes, the sense of existence. Because of this, that's why like I think about it, like if you have a job interview tomorrow, the reason why you're stressed out is because you think that, oh, if I were to fail this job, fail this interview, then I won't get a job. That means I will die tomorrow, or I will die. Yeah, I will die. I mean, so it's because we think, okay, so there is this person who's been living for a long time, who's been existing for a long time. This person, we are all given a name. So this person, you was born on, I don't know, in 1995, let's say, and they're alive till now. And then this person's going to live until um, they're going to live forever, or at least, for next another 50 years or so. And this existence, because of this, we feel like whenever we have to do something, or because of this existence, the mind is always under pressure. And the Buddha said, this pressure we have to understand. When you understand what dukkha is, then, because that's all we have to do really. We can't get rid of it because it's the way the world is. Sin, dukkha means things have come together for necessity. Oh, this sense of an object, sense of something, like existence, sense of an existence, sense of separation. Like when you're looking at, we're all looking at this laptop, and you probably, through the laptop, on the laptop you see other people. You feel like this laptop and me are two different things. You feel like this laptop is really there. You feel like this laptop is its own thing. That is what the Buddha meant by dukkha. Like it's like, imagine you are traveling in a desert. You're traveling in a desert, and you see like, let's say 100 meters in front of you, you see a great lake with lots of water. You see animals there, and so let's see, you see something like this while you're walking on a desert. On a really hot day, you see this 100 meters in front of you. There's a lake, and there are animals there. There's lots of flowers there, etc. And you believe that it's real, believing it to be true. Because let's say you walk 100 meters, and what usually happens is now it's still 100 meters in front of you. So in other words, you're seeing a mirage, but you think it's really there. That is what the Buddha meant by dukkha, like believing the illusion to be true, believing that the laptop is really there. Everything we see, everything we feel, everything we can smell, taste, touch, we feel like, that's why, see the way I said it, we feel like everything we see, everything we smell, everything we touch. So everything we see, something is there, or things are there, and we see them. This is the illusion. What the Buddha said is that this is not the way. This is not true. It's not like something exists and we see it. No. Through sight comes the object. In other words, color comes first and then the object. Not object exists and this object has color. This object has a certain smell to it. It feels like something is there and we are noticing its characteristics. Because you can take the laptop and see, like, you don't need to know the Dhamma. You can, if you know a bit of science, basic, high school science, you know that the properties that we think are inherent in the laptop aren't real. Like like color, for example. Oh, the noise, we feel like it makes a noise. No, it doesn't. Laptop is basically a bundle of energy, and we see energy when these atoms move, they create vibrations. So a mind interprets that as sound, which is fair enough because that's what a mind can do. So that's okay, right? But we have to understand the reality behind it. So this laptop that we experience, that is purely um, it's a mental distortion of the reality. It's not the truth. That experience only exists in the mind. It doesn't exist in the real world, i.e., the world with energy, because that's what's really there. So we feel like things exist, but the Buddha said, no, there are effects. So we have to prove to the mind that everything we experience are effects. This entire experience of, like, think about each and every moment, each and every experience that you have, each and every thought you have, each and every thing that you experience, it's an effect. All are effects. So why do I say that? Because, take the laptop. The laptopness, that laptopness is an effect, or the laptop is an effect. Because what's really there are some parts, when those parts are arranged in a certain arrangement, we feel like it's something. Okay, we feel like it, or it looks like it's become something, but that's okay. We have to understand it's a lookalike. It's a doppelganger. You've probably seen those. There are people. I only found out when I found out about this job occupation when I came to the UK. Actually, there are people who are lookalikes. Like, there are people who are like, they look like certain celebrities. So what they do is they go to these parties, and people invite them. Actually, they go to these parties and they make little speech, or they make they let people take photographs with them. Like, there are people who they look like Simon Cowell, or these, like, let's say, popular football managers. So when they look like them, so people invite them to their parties, and some people they get tricked, and they think this is the actual person. So you probably know what I'm talking about. There are people who look like other famous people, and people who look like Trump, stuff like that. So sorry, so they get invited to these parties, and then that's how they make a living. That's their job, because they happen to look like someone else. Now they have a way to live. In a way, it's their merits, and I'm happy for them. But if you were to meet someone who looks like Donald Trump, you didn't meet Trump, you met a lookalike. So what we are experiencing now as a laptop, it's something that looks like a laptop. It's like a laptop, or it's like an object, an entity. It seems like it's its own thing. If you like laptop, it's its own thing. We don't feel like there's no actual laptop there. It's a bunch of parts. Laptop is a name we give to a collection. We don't feel like that. We feel like, no, these parts came together and they made something completely different, completely new, i.e., a laptop. But that is believing the doppelganger to be the real person. That is like you met a Trump lookalike and believing that it's the actual Trump. Or you met someone who looks like King Charles and believing that you actually met King Charles, and you take a selfie with him and you post on Facebook and say, oh, look who I bumped into while I was in Primark, or while I was in Marks and Spencer's or something, right? Okay. The royal family goes to probably like Marks and Spencer's or something like that. So at least, so let's say while I was in Marks and Spencer's, I bumped into the king, but you didn't. You simply bumped into someone who looks like the king, right? Maybe he's called Charles as well, but he's not King Charles. He's someone who looks like King Charles, right? So this is what I mean, right? So everything we experience it's a lookalike. Like in Sinhalese, we say "vage." That's what you're experiencing. So that's what we have to understand. We have to prove to the mind. So to prove to the mind that everything is in effect, we have to understand the characteristics of an effect. So if you were to take a really simple example, right? Let's take the flame, okay? When you're seeing a flame, the reality is what's really there are heat, fuel, and oxygen. What's really there are the causes. Flame is simply a reaction of the causes. And when causes react, the final result or the reaction or the reaction displays a quality or a characteristic that is completely different from all the causes. Like the fire. The thing is, what we have to bear in mind is that the effect displays a certain characteristic, which is true. Like the flame, if you were to touch it, you would get burnt. Or it looks like you've got burnt. So like it does have the characteristic of being able to burn something. But it's simply a characteristic. Hence the term effect. That final or that reaction is simply an effect. It bears a characteristic, true, but it didn't become something else. It didn't become a product. It's still heat, fuel, and oxygen. They didn't make a flame. That is what we need to understand. 1, 2, 3 things came together, and it's still those three. They didn't make a fourth thing. Because flame is like a new thing that came into the equation. I mean, where did it come from? Like, it's not either one of the ingredients. So it's like it's this alien thing that came out of nowhere. I mean, it can't happen. Isn't it? So flame is basically a name that we've given to that collection, or a name that's given to a certain, you could say a characteristic even. So the flame is basically a reaction. It's not a product or a result. I mean, it's not a product. You could call it a result, but it's not a product. It's a reaction. So basically the reaction displays a characteristic that's true. And this characteristic is completely different from all the causes. That's why an effect can't talk about the causes. Like the flame doesn't know anything about oxygen, doesn't know anything about heat, doesn't know anything about fuel, because it is completely different to all of them. It's like, there are some kids who are completely different from their parents. So by looking at the child, you can't talk about the parents. Because the child is completely different, probably looks different, maybe acts differently. So by looking at the child, you can't talk, you can't make any sort of judgment on what the parents are like. So basically an effect is like that. It's like that child. So by looking at the flame, we can't talk about the causes. Like, or let's say the flame itself, imagine it can think, it has no idea about its origin, where it came from, like how it came to being. It has no idea about how any of that has happened. So that's why now think about the mind. Mind is also an effect, isn't it? Mind is also an effect. And if the mind is an effect, mind has no idea about the causes. So, but because of ignorance, we've been told that the mind is its own thing. It becomes a fixed thing. Because if the flame becomes a fixed thing, then fair enough. Like if those three come together, heat, fuel, oxygen, they came together. And if they were to create a fourth thing, called a flame, then that's okay. Then we can talk about change, permanence, impermanence. But that doesn't happen. Because you can't touch the flame. I mean, I know you get burned, but let's say you can't touch the laptop that's in front of you. You're touching one of the causes. You're touching either the screen or the frame or the keyboard or the trackpad, or you're touching one of the parts, which means, because if the laptop is really there, if the flame is really there, we should be able to touch it. But we're not touching. We can't touch the laptop. We're touching the one of the causes. That's why it's an illusion. It's like you're trying to touch a hologram. If you were to try to grab a hologram, you can't grab anything. You're grabbing maybe light, but you're not grabbing the hologram. As in, sorry, you're not grabbing whatever's in that hologram, whatever that hologram shows. There's nothing in it, simply light, but it looks like a car or or an item of food or whatever it is. You go to grab it, thinking it's really there, but what you're grabbing is light. So that's what I mean. So an effect means that it's something completely different from all of its causes. So that's another property, another characteristic. And the third one is, for an effect to happen, it doesn't need a doer. This is a process. Causes come together and reaction. The flame can, one reaction brings the causes for the next reaction, and the reaction continues. It's a self-sustaining process, because heat, fuel, oxygen come together, and that reaction produces heat. That heat brings oxygen and heat together. Heat is obviously it's there already. It brings heat and it draws the next bit of fuel. Okay, next droplet of oil or next wax molecule. The heat brings all of those things together, and then another flame. So what I'm saying is that reaction continues. You don't need someone to intervene. We don't need to intervene. It will keep going. And an effect like it's just the causes. Like there's nothing that exists in this world that are devoid of causes. Meaning that only causes are there. Causes come together, but they don't make anything. It's just the causes, right? So when we understand these things, what's happened to us is that that flame has begun to think that it exists. So imagine now the flame is there, it's lit, and a gust of wind comes and it gets blown to, so it was straight like this, and then some wind came and it went like this. It almost went off, and it almost went off, but the wind wasn't strong enough to completely put it off. And then it came, let's say, back up. So if that flame were to think that, oh, this wind, if you were to think that it's real, it's going to blame the wind for affecting it. But actually, there's no flame in the first place. That's why the flame, the effect, yes, you can say it happens in the mind, but actually the effect doesn't exist. The flame is a complete illusion. The flame doesn't exist anywhere. The laptop doesn't exist. Parts are there, fair enough. The effect is a complete illusion. So, because it's not like the flame that was like this, went like this, and then came back like this. No. The flame that was like this became the flame like this. And then it's like this, and it came back up. It's like frame by frame by frame. Each frame is a new frame. In film, when you see, let's say there's a movie, and in this movie, there's a sequence of someone running. Let's say there's a sequence of someone running for, let's say, I don't know, they're running for, let's say, 1 second, right? Or let's say they were running for, I don't know, 5 seconds. We feel like it seems like one thing. It seems like one sequence. Doesn't seem like different ones pieced together to make it look like one. No, it looks like one thing, right? Like a smooth single sequence. But in reality, films, these cameras, they have something called there's a rate at which they capture light. So let's say, and some screens, they have this, there's something called frames per second. So let's say some TVs, they show 60 frames per second. So if you see someone running, what's happened is that you saw 300 different frames. Each of it had a different action. When someone is running, the left hand goes from from behind to front, and then same with the other hand, and then the same with this legs move as well at the same time, and the entire body moves. So imagine that movement, though it looks like one movement, actually it's 300 individual movements. But because it happens so quickly, it looks like one smooth action. But in reality, it's 300 different frames. So it's like 300 different actions made to look like one. Because if you were to see it as 300 different actions, right, no one's going to watch any movies. It's going to be too. It's like it's lagging. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. So everything that we experience, that is also the same. It looks like a smooth kind of movie, like one thing. Like when you're looking at this laptop, it looks like you're looking at the same laptop all the time. But no, you're looking at what's happening is like you are seeing like it's pixels, and it's not like it came from the laptop. It's just, again, these are effects. So bunch of these effects are coming together because the memory does it. It's like when there's an effect, So let's say the flame, color, and let's say color for now. The color that the mind perceives, that gets sent to the memory bank, and it keeps recalling the previous memories. So that's why it looks like we are seeing the same flame, and that's why we feel like we're looking at the same flame for, let's say if you're looking at it for a minute, that's why we feel like we've been looking at the same flame for the entire past minute. But actually, no, it's a new one all the time. Not a new flame. Colors are created all the time, and they keep coming together to make it look like the flame, make it look like a flame. And because it's happening like without any stopping, we feel like we're seeing the same flame over and over and over and over again. But that's not true. There never really is a flame, right? And there's no flame, and we're not seeing the same flame. That's what I mean. This complete thing is a lie. A lie has been pulled over your eyes. This is what we have to understand. So really understand and prove to yourselves, prove to the mind that everything is an effect. That's why we say, take a simple example, like the flame, or when you mix two colors, that resultant color. So you can use that as an example, whatever it is, constantly. I mean, something you can do is, if you have something that, like a pen, for example, that you can break apart and put back together, when you're on the tube, when you are at work, if you're at a meeting and you feel like it's boring, that's what you can do. So you can take a pen out and see if it's a fixed thing. Because if it's a fixed thing, you won't be able to take it apart. Because if it's a singularity, if it's one, you won't be able to, then it can't become many if it's one. But it's not many, it's not one, it's many, it's a collection. That's why we can, break it, take it apart. So when we can take it apart, it shows to us. When we can take it apart, it shows to us that there was no it to be taken apart. Because we feel like there's a pen and we took it apart. No, we didn't take a pen apart. Parts was what was really there. Parts is what really exists. And what we did was we simply changed the arrangement. That's all we did. We didn't turn a pen into parts. No, we're not magicians. And that's not what we did. We took the parts and we changed the arrangement. So really, just prove to yourself of these. Like, that's why take a simple example and master that example. Because what we're trying to do is, we're not trying to understand what 𝗓𝗔 dukkha anatta is. What we're trying to do is to, or let me rephrase it. The reason why we're trying to learn about, or learn and understand what 𝗓𝗔 dukkha anatta is because we perceive the world incorrectly. So that is why we're trying to do this. So use a simple example. Don't make it too complicated. Because there's only one solution to all of your problems. And that is what you're giving to the mind. That is what you're taking. It's one medicine, it's one pill fixes it all, kind of thing. So if you feel ego, if you feel inferior, if you have inferiority complex, if you feel upset all the time, if you have intrusive thoughts, and if you get stressed very easily, this is the solution. Because a lot of people, they try to become someone who's good at applying the Dhamma to problems. It's like they get stressed and then they apply some Dhamma, and now they don't feel stress. So now they think, okay, now I know the Dhamma. Now I understand the Dhamma. So And they don't feel like they need to contemplate when they don't have any problems, because they've become someone who's good at applying the Dhamma when a problem comes, which means they only apply the Dhamma when there's a problem. In other words, what they've done unknowingly is they've created the I, they created the I who's good at solving problems, the me who's good at applying the Dhamma to problems, not solving problems, the I who's good at applying the Dhamma to problems. Again, that creates the I. That doesn't get rid of the self. That that solidifies it. So don't become that person either. Don't become the person who only applies the Dhamma when there's a problem. No, we have a problem all the time. When you see something, if you feel like, if you're seeing a chair and you feel like you are seeing a chair, that chair is it's its own thing, it's really there. We feel like this, that's the problem. Because there's no chair there, there's some plastic there. Or there's a backrest, there's a seat and the four legs. That's what's really there. But we feel like we don't feel like it's a collection, we feel like it's one thing. So we have this problem all the time. Whereas when we go through an issue, when we feel stressed, that's merely an indication of the problem. Like it's like a confirmation that the problem still exists. So it's like we talk about raga, desha, moha. Moha means delusion. Right? We always have moha. We are always deluded. I don't mean to hurt. I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings when I say. That's why I use the term we. Right? Deluded. We are deluded. Not you are deluded. We are deluded. Right? So we are deluded. In other words, our state of the mind, our default state of the mind right now is moha. And now what happens is that because delusion is there, wrong understanding, wrong view is there. Now when something happens we like, then we get attached to that. That is raga. Or last is probably the wrong word. It's like attachment. And then if something we don't like happens, then there's 𝗕𝗿 or aversion. But aversion and attachment or raga. So raga and 𝗕𝗿 only happens because of moha. What people do is they try to apply the Dhamma when they have raga and when they have 𝗕𝗿. That is, it's okay. It's better than nothing, but it's not as efficient. The problem really is moha. Feeling entities exist. So that is what we need to get rid of. When we get rid of that, raga and 𝗕𝗿 won't happen. So that's what I mean. Like, don't be fooled, don't be deceived into thinking that, okay, when something happens to me, I'm going to apply the Dhamma and I can overcome the problem. No. When something happens to you and apply the Dhamma, then that's the problem has, now it's gone far beyond its initial stages. Now it's way too late in a way. So like be mindful of this. Really understand that you always have the problem. And if you're trying, like, when we do health and safety training, like if you're in the NHS, you have to do this once a year. They talk about how to put a fire out. The way to put a fire out is to attack the base, not the top, not the middle bit, the base. So the base is moha. Base is believing entities exist. That is what we need to attack. Not 𝗕𝗿, not raga. I hope that makes sense. So really use a simple example and prove to yourself that nothing in this world is devoid of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Everything conforms, or everything has these characteristics. I can't say everything has these characteristics, but you know what I mean. These three characteristics are what's really there. There aren't any other characteristics. This is the sort of like the ultimate truth, really. Okay, so as we always say, spend at least 15 minutes a day listening to a part of the Nyaya, of the doctrine, and spend another 15 minutes contemplating about it, yeah, or mastering the example that you're using. And because that practice will help you to bring this to awareness. Yeah, so this should be your practice. This should be something you do daily. If you wanna, again, it depends on how quickly you wanna come out of this trap. If you don't want to come out of it immediately, then you can do the stuff we say, once a week, once a month, whenever you feel like it. Like if you contemplate whenever you feel like it, then you'll come out of the trap whenever. Like there's no, like, the rate at which, I mean, if you want to, like, a lot of people ask me the question, how long will I take to attain Nibbana? And I would ask them, okay, how much time do you spend practicing the path? They say, oh, I practice it, I don't really get a chance to practice it. Then you will never come out of this. If you practice it daily, then there's a good chance that you'll come out of it very soon. So you get paid for your performance. In this job, you get paid for your performance. Like, by that I mean, like, some jobs, there's a fixed salary. I mean, most jobs are like that. There's a fixed salary, whether you are, let's say, your salary is 50,000, and if your performance is worth 100,000, you still get paid 50,000. Let's say your performance is 30,000, you still get paid 50,000. But when it comes to training Nibbana, you get paid based on your performance. If your performance is 100,000, you get paid 100,000. So that's the beauty of Nibbana. That's why everyone is at different stages. That's why it's not something we are all going. We are on the journey together, but within the journey we are at different places. See, this is the reason why, because you get paid based on your performance. If you don't perform, if you don't contemplate, then you won't make much progress. So that's it. So I don't know. In today's sermon, it was mostly advice, but I think that's what we need, to be honest. But maybe some days it's from the get-go, it's Dhamma. Today it's mostly advice, but I think it came out of me because maybe it's probably something you had to know. So, because the thing is, you all know Dhamma. Like, I recognized almost all of your faces. You guys know this stuff. So what you have to do is now to apply it. So what you really need is the advice. You don't necessarily need the Dhamma too much. You know enough. Like, I was discussing with another monk the other day that obviously Guru Hamduru or Guru Thero was gone for nearly 2 months, or maybe I think month and a half, 2 months. He was traveling Australia, New Zealand. But when it comes to the Dhamma, like, there's nothing much he can do for us in terms of Dhamma, because he taught us everything. He gave us everything that we need to attain Nibbana. Now it's up to us, really. We have to apply the Dhamma now. The reason why not all the monks are enlightened is because we don't practice as much. If all of us were to practice, as much as we can, if you were to practice all the time, then all of us would have probably attained Nibbana by now. So that's the thing. So in terms of the Dhamma, you don't really need much, to be fair. You know enough to get the job done. Now, like, we've given you the fuel, like, now, take the journey, like get to the destination. You don't need any more fuel. You have enough fuel for the entire journey. So that's what I mean. So from time to time, some of these sermons, it's full of advice. Some of these sermons is mostly Dhamma. Some of these sermons it's a bit of both. So yeah, I mean, it's your merit, based on your merits, you'll get what you deserve. So, and yeah, so that's just the way it is. So, take this advice to heart, and let's act upon it, because who knows if this is the last sermon, right? Who knows? We don't know what the future holds, right? We might never come to the UK again. It might be the end of this series of talks. This could be the last sermon. So who knows? We might have heard the last sermon from Guru Thero or Naika Thero. We don't know, right? So every sermon you listen to, treat it like the last sermon, and make the most out of it. Like, take everything that you heard, try to apply as much of it into your life as possible. Because these bits are coming out of these ideas and advice are coming out of me because of your merits. So you get what you paid for. So this is it. Yeah. Okay. Are there any questions before we conclude? Okay. So since there aren't any more questions, what I will do is we will conclude the session. So thank you very much. Much merits. Bless you all. And I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Okay. By the power of the merits you've gained throughout this samsara, may you all attain supreme bliss of Nibbana in this very life and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. If there are any obstacles in your way in attaining Nibbana, may all those obstacles go away. There was